I was in a quest for meaningful work. But something in me, something beneath what you could see in me physically, was a deep despair and a feeling that I was not meant to be born. In addition to feeling bad about myself, I felt bad about you. You as in the collective. I was short-tempered with my children, jealous of others, and sometimes, yes, hateful. Looking back now, I think a good part of my life, especially my young adulthood, was in this difficult state of feeling like I wasn't meant to be here, and it was mixed in with this idea of, why did everyone else have it better than I did? In this place of despair, I would talk to my mom, wanting to know, why did I have so much self-loathing? We don't talk about the past, was her answer. It felt cruel at the time, like she knew something but wouldn't say. But in time, I grew to learn that from her own difficult childhood, this was just how she coped with life, by forgetting the past and carrying on. It is a nice thought to live in the present moment, if we can do it. And then there's something called our life experience. Regardless of your spiritual or philosophical or religious beliefs, we all know that everybody here one day was born. We come from a lineage that affects us more than we know, and then we have our own personality added on top of that. So even in the womb, we start to experience life and develop the wounds that will eventually become our triggers. For whatever reason, one of my wounds was to think that I wasn't even meant to be here. And this led to me not acting very lovingly in the world, too. It felt like a rumbling beneath the surface that made it almost impossible to live peacefully in the present moment. One day, as a therapist, I had this long-held pattern in my thinking put to a test. A client, someone potentially with more struggles than anyone I had met before, had been following me outside the office. I had noticed that even though they didn't live in Charleston, they would often show up where I was, and not places you would expect them to be. I had been thinking of how to address this. As I was reflecting on what to say to them at our next session, he sat down and pulled out a gun. Here I sat in my office with a client who had a pistol. Then he put it to his head. There was a Kandinsky painting behind him on the wall, and immediately I felt a deep sense of calm, and then suddenly these words came out of my mouth. You know that's really not going to work with this thick board. Apparently this unexpected response worked as he began weeping and dropped the pistol. Although this man had threatened to harm himself, who knew exactly how it was going to turn out? And something in me awakened to the idea of, did I really wish to be dead? I had been thinking for many days, weeks, and months and years that I wasn't meant to be alive. Then someone appeared who could take care of that. It was the beginning of me deciding to change my mind. I decided other things too. I decided that if there was anything from my past I needed to know, it would be delivered to me in the right place at the right time. I decided to pay more attention to my dreams. I decided to listen to myself more. I decided to begin listening to my amazing friends who were kind and loving and believed in my goodness before I could even have a teeny glimpse of it. I began the practice of self-love. And this was also the beginning of my journey to love you. Brene Brown, in her book, The Gifts of Imperfection, Let Go of Who You Think You're Supposed to Be and Embrace Who You Are, has written, love is not something we give or get. It is something that we nurture and grow. A connection that can only be cultivated between two people when it exists within each one of them. We can only love other people as much as we love ourselves. For me, learning to love myself was like exercising a demon, and not exercising like this, like exorcism. Thinking it was okay to like myself or love myself felt like the most scandalous and ridiculous thing possible. Talk about the daring way. It's an idea that I continually open up to and practice to this day. As a young adult, there was an undercurrent of despair and distress that would always come out and lash out to myself and other people. It's much, much less today, and yet there are still moments, my reminder of what living in a lower vibration feels like. I still get triggered. Occasionally I drop in vibration, and I forget that I am love, and that you are love, and I create drama. And this is actually why I am able to be in touch with the self-hatred other people have and the hatred they give to the world. This feeling of like being separate, feeling either unworthy or better than others at the same time, has actually been my path to understand conflicted, suffering people. Many, probably most of you, feel easy to love. To me, you bring out my good side, I connect with you. Of course, some of you may be challenging to love. You push my triggers, or I don't resonate with you. And I propose that it is those of you here or in this world who I don't love so easily that are the perfect mirrors to help me love myself more. And as I do, hopefully to love you more too. Loving yourself means honoring the unique expression that you are. If you had healthy thoughts, healthy choices, healthy relationships, this would end up being a great service to humankind. By remembering to continually come into alignment with your source or highest self or happiest self and feeling better and better. Now sometimes I get grief for this. People get upset and say I'm proposing to be selfish or self-centered. But I love Louise Hay. If anybody's read her book, You Can Heal Your Life. It's one of my favorite books. And she has written, is it easier to help other people when you're happy, wealthy, healthy, and feel good, or when you're sick and poor and broke and down and out? You know, it's possible to help people when you're sick and poor and feel bad and down and out. But the better we feel about ourselves, the healthier we are, the more we can do for other people. So can you actually commit to loving the world by loving yourself? What if your purpose is to love yourself? What if from that deep love and knowing, then you can figure out what action you can also take to help other people? This is where we're all different. Some people are called to make change on a micro level. We make change one-on-one with people. Some people make change in laws and legislation and social justice. There are many ways that change happens in this world. And it seems to me the best way is when we fully care for and love ourselves and listen to the unique action that is inspired we each can take. How many times have you seen people want to help animals, want to help people in prison, want to help immigrants, want to help the environment, and yet they're out of balance, angry, distressed, and unhealthy? When Jesus said, there will always be trouble in the world, I hope that it was not meant for us to give in or to be distressed about it, but that to see it's our task to come into alignment with our source and live the fullest life that we can live, tuning into goodness and bringing that goodness to the world, which happens automatically, by the way, when we practice self-love. This is overcoming the world of pain and suffering. You don't self-love so you can then be of service to the world. By self-loving, you will naturally be of service to this world. So, if self-hatred and hatred exist, what do we do when we're confronted with this? It doesn't mean being a doormat or being subjected to bullies. Loving other people does not condone racism or sexism or violence. This transformative love to anyone who offends us takes focus and effort. But we can practice the love of another person and not subject ourselves to their BS. We can love another person and not agree with their philosophies and beliefs. We can love another person and choose to not even spend time with them. And here's why. This is divine love. Something we are invited to like a new vision. C.S. Lewis wrote in The Four Loves of parental love, filial love, and erotic love, how we can love people in different ways. Some people are friends, some people are like parent-child, some people are lovers. But he also wrote of agape love. And hopefully, we can embody this kind of love in a way that God or divine consciousness would love other people. We each are part of divine consciousness, and while I'm not a physicist or a scientist, it makes sense to me that at a basic level, we are all of the same essence. If you are of the divine, and I am of the divine, then it seems like you and I would also be of each other. And so the person that we don't like, the person who drives us crazy, is also us. They are the me and you who has been put through another life experience, and their personality is different, and there's been another outcome. And there are times when, through tragedy, we are more aware of this separation between us, and it feels bad. I choose to believe and offer to you that mean-spirited people are really beings who have separated from the truth that they are. Whether there's someone who has lied, betrayed, posted stuff on Facebook, assaulted, committed violence, promotes prejudice and separation, they are still a part of you, and they are still a part of me. I still sometimes will try to convince other people to change. I'm a master at talking to people I cannot talk to. And so, in a form of codependency, I want other people to be different so I will feel better. If you would, if he would, if she would, then I would feel better and I could love them. Do you know how hard it is to change yourself? What hope can there ever be then to change another person? The only way I've ever found to be able to do this is a deep, soulful, every cell in my being change within myself. For me, this is what Carolyn Mace calls seeing life from the 10th floor instead of the 2nd floor. There can be times in life when we want people to tell us what to do, or we want to tell people what to do. It's kind of like being in kindergarten or elementary school, and it's procrastination. Our spiritual growth is being able to live on a higher floor, not in terms of comparing our worth to other people, but in terms of having an expanded vision, where we do the hard work to feel better and better and glimpse the divine nature that is in all people, regardless of their foibles and even evil actions. One reason to commit to yourself and your own evolution and your own growth and to good company and to feeling better and to taking care of yourself is so that you will vibrate on a higher frequency, developing an awareness of universal wisdom and truth and seeing people from a higher elevation. Instead of spending so much time wanting people to be different and having lamentations about it, it's so much more helpful to remove the blocks of goodness and love that already exist inside us. Then there is a natural flow of the understanding and interconnectedness with all beings. Rumi said, out beyond ideas of right doing and wrongdoing, there is a field. I'll meet you there. To me, this is the place where we are all connected beyond understanding, where we see on a basic level we are made of the same substance, but we're just configured in different ways with different experiences. I believe that I'm already loved, but I forget. My deep forgetting affected my children, and as again Brene Brown writes in The Daring Greatly, For parents, this means we are called upon to acknowledge that we can't give our children what we don't have. I would add that we can't give anyone what we don't have. My deep forgetting, with your deep forgetting, creates a hopeless world. So even if others have a deep forgetting of their divine nature, life is not served when we forget too. The only thing to do is keep remembering. I want to love myself. I want to love my children. I want to love you. I even want to love people I don't like. Why do I love you? Because I am you, and you are also me. Or more eloquently, as John Lennon said, I am he, as you are me, and we are all together. While recently in France, the village of my artist residency, I became aware that it had been occupied by Nazis. There were a lot of stories, and one friend was telling me how late in her father's life they found a war medal in his possession. He had never even talked about the war. So his children asked him, how did he receive this medal? And my friend learned that while she was a very young child, her father hid Jewish people in their barn and in the cellar. They dared not tell their children for risk of being caught. She found this out 50 years later. But there was more. At the end of the war, Allied forces were coming. Nazis were now afraid and running, and her father hid them. He hid them in the barn. He had her mother guard them with a gun. It was unloaded, but they didn't know that. People were wanting to kill the Nazis, and her father hid them until the Allied forces arrived, and then he turned them over. This strange tale reminds me that we can love people in a more expansive way and not condone their behavior. We can leave people to the consequences, and we can know our part and what action to take, the clearer and better we feel. Teacher, which is the greatest commandment in the law? Jesus replied, love the Lord your God with all your heart and all your mind and all your soul. This is the first and greatest commandment. And the second is, love your neighbor as yourself. All the law and prophets hang on these two commandments. Love God with all your heart and all your soul, and your neighbor as yourself is not a conditional commandment. It is a wholehearted one. And in this time, it is with urgency and vigilance that we are called to love ourselves more profoundly than ever in order to heal our world.